Hey, this is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee in the middle of a big thunderstorm with big black clouds passing over, but no rain. Uh, hey, we get great weather here in Appalachia. It's mild in the summers, you know, uh, gets up in the high 80s, maybe the low 90s occasionally. Winters are not too severe. It's a wonderful, wonderful part of the world to live in. And one thing about the Appalachian area, we got water, unbelievable amounts of water. If we don't damage our streams, we have underground lakes here in Tennessee and West Virginia and places like that are unbelievably huge and with fish and everything. I mean, underground lakes, you can take boat rides in these underground lakes. It's it's amazing, and we're discovering more all the time. Pure, fresh water. Uh, Here in La Follette, we get this crap they stick so many chemicals in you can't drink it. I have to pour lemon juice in my tap water to be able to drink it, to be able to stand the taste. And you know what's sad about this is we used to get our water from our own lake in the hills up behind La Follette, and then we put this beard guy in there, and he was owned by TVA. So we started getting everything from TVA, even our water. And that water over there is not that clean. You know, you got the Powell River and the Clinch Rivers coming down through there, picking up all that sewage from Virginia and East Tennessee and dumping it into North Lake. Then you got all them damn boats out there, and nobody does the right thing. They all flush their boat right into the damn lake water. And so, you know, we're sucking up that shit and piss and everything else comes off those yachts and boats and houseboats and shit. And they have to put all these carcinogen chemicals in it to make it clean enough to drink. And damn, it tastes like you're drinking chemicals. So I squirt a whole bunch of lemon juice, cut lemons up, squeeze them into the tap water. It's the only way you can drink that crap. But anyway, today I want to talk about something I left out. I did a show on Ted Turner a few days back, but I left out part of the greatest achievement in journalism that this country has ever accomplished. I would give Ted Turner the highest marks of any journalist in this country, except maybe Kilgallen, who was murdered because of her effective journalism. CIA got rid of her and destroyed all her research on the Kennedy assassination. Hell, tell me there's crooks in Washington, D.C. There's crooks all over Washington, D.C. That deep state is one of the most evil, cruel things we've ever permitted in this damn country. And something needs to be done about it. Trump's trying, but hey, how do you fight 3 million damn people? You know, they're going to sit on their hands and not do anything that he wants. And they're going to refuse to effectuate his policies. And then go back to their left-wing liberal totalitarianism as soon as he's out of office. But anyway, Ted Turner, he went to Vietnam 10 years after the end of that war. The war ended in 1975. 1985, Ted Turner sent a film crew to Vietnam, and they interviewed everybody that was still alive. Now, by 1985, Ho Chi Minh had died of old age. But Gipp was still there. He was their top general during the entire Vietnam War. And Ted Turner spent 2 hours a night, his TBS channel, 5 nights, 10 hours of some of the most incredible investigative journalism you've ever seen in your life. He interviewed Vietnamese people. He interviewed Gipp, spent a whole 2 hours with Gipp. He discovered stuff that you just would not imagine about that Vietnam War, and that our government never told us. Gipp said they were right on the verge of surrendering 3 times because they just could not handle that rolling thunder when those B-17s would come over and drop them humongous bombs all over Hanoi and Vietnam military installations and stuff. And those B-17s had real good defensive mechanisms. I had a friend that was part of that, electronic defensive mechanisms and countermeasures on those B-17s, or no, B-52s, I'm sorry. B-52s. Oh, B-17s, I'm going back to World War II. You know, the thing about the Vietnam War, my father and my uncles all fought on the side of Ho Chi Minh against the Axis powers. And, you know, Japan came down there, kicked the shit out of the French, run them out of Vietnam. And Ho Chi Minh fought on our side for the entire 4 years of World War II. And then, at the end of the war, Ho Chi asked Truman not to let the French come back to Vietnam, that he would be an ally of the United States forever, that he wanted to be an independent, free country like the United States. You know, but Truman, dumbass hick from Missouri, turned them down, let the French come back in there. And a lot of Americans had to die over that decision that Truman made to let the French go back into Vietnam. Of course, a lot of French had to die, a lot of Vietnamese had to die. But anyway, Gipp said they couldn't handle that B-52 bombing, that they were about to surrender 3 different times, and them dumbasses in Washington, D.C. would stop the bombing. Crazy. They wouldn't let the military win that damn war. And they had it won. According to Gipp, Ted Turner's investigative journalism in 1985, Gipp said right there on TBS that they were about to give up. And they couldn't figure out why we'd stop the bombing. When we'd stop the bombing, they'd rebuild everything and get everything going again. But anyway, that series in 1985 was so successful that Ted Turner got permission from the communist Russian government to do the same thing in Russia in 1986. Amazing. Ted Turner sent a TV crew into Russia, and boy, let me tell you something. Their discoveries were awesome. Absolutely awesome. It was 2 hours a night, every night, Monday through Friday, 10 hours worth. And I fell off my couch one time watching it. They were interviewing this general, this Russian general, and he was a colonel in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he said one of the reasons they made a deal with Kennedy was because they were aware that Kennedy was about to be assassinated. The Russian spies in Washington, D.C. was doing a better job uncovering the attempts to make sure that Kennedy died that year. They knew about it. And so in the fall of 1962, now Kennedy wasn't assassinated until November 1963, but in the fall of 1962, during the missile crisis, there was a conspiracy in Washington, D.C. to assassinate Kennedy, and Khrushchev knew that if Kennedy was assassinated and Johnson went in there, it'd be World War III. It would be World War III. And so they made a deal with Kennedy as quickly as they could, and they got a good deal out of Kennedy. Pull our missiles out of Turkey, and they'd pull theirs out of Cuba. And of course, they wanted to keep that secret about Turkey, us pulling our missiles out. But Kennedy did, he agreed to that. And it was a fair agreement, fair deal. But this general was sitting there saying that they made a deal as quickly as they could with Kennedy because they knew they could deal with Kennedy. But if Johnson went in there, it was going to be World War III. Definitely. And Johnson did try to start World War III over in Vietnam. And son of a gun, I tell you, or son of a bitch is what he really was. He was an evil man. Evil. He was controlled by Satan and satanic cults all through Washington, D.C. and the deep state. And he was an evil man, well controlled by the Marxist communists in Washington, D.C. and by the military-industrial complex. He was a pawn of all of it. And he always tried to bluster and everything. But Ted Turner, another thing, he interviewed soldiers that fought at Stalingrad, got their side of the war, their opinions of what happened and everything. And he said, he pointed out in these videos that he was doing over there in Russia, he brought home information that, hell, the CIA wouldn't give us. Our government wouldn't tell us about. That basically Russia was wiped out of men. Towns had no men in them, except really old men, old women, some children they were taken care of. But the population of Russia had been decimated in World War II. And most of the men found working in the military, working for the government, was a lot better than working on the farms back home, especially those government-controlled farms. But anyway, in interviewing those Russian soldiers, he said their favorite American words were Studebaker, because we shipped thousands of trucks over there for them to haul their military around in, because Russia preserved a lot of their factories, but their factories were concentrating most on tanks and artillery. But we sent, using our Liberty ships, going up to Archangel, Russia, up in the North Atlantic, fighting the Germans all the way up there and back. We sent thousands of Studebaker trucks. Another word they liked was Jeep. We hauled thousands, tens of thousands of American Jeeps over there for the Russians, especially for their officers to ride around in and be able to communicate with each other, get back and forth, from one point of the front to the next. That really helped them a lot. And their favorite word of all was spam. Spam, that canned meat from the Chicago Packing Company, Chicago Meat Packing Company. We sent shiploads of spam over there, and them Russians even in 1986, were talking about how much they loved Spam. Spam was the greatest food they'd ever had. And we sent shiploads over there because Germany had conquered a lot of their farmland, so they weren't able to harvest crops and produce food. They lost their livestock and everything to the German armies. And when we shipped that Spam over, them damn Russians, they loved that Spam. They just, boy, they ate that stuff up. They'd open them cans, and they'd fork that Spam out of there and eat it. They'd clean them cans out, buddy. They loved Spam. They said that was their favorite food ever in Russia. And they, of course, after the war, they couldn't get any Spam. And communists, you know how they are. They screw everything up. But anyway, like they're trying to do here in the United States now, you know, in New York, Wisconsin, Michigan, and California, these communists are trying to take over the world. And if they take over the United States, they will take over the world. But anyway, Ted Turner, one of the greatest investigative journalists, and I'm sorry I left this part out of my first show on Ted Turner, because he was a remarkable man. Remarkable. And you know, he even started a United States-Russia Olympics in the off years between the regular Olympics. They just had competition between the United States and Russia. And I think Ted Turner got that working 1 year, maybe the next year, and then it collapsed because they just weren't getting enough corporate support for it and enough people behind it to make it that interesting. And but Ted Turner, with his little TBS station, satellite TV, cable TV, and he gave us some of the best investigative journalism. You know, I have searched all through Google and everywhere to try to find videotapes. I've even tried to contact CNN in Atlanta, TBS in Atlanta, to see if I could get my hands on those videotapes of the 1985 shows from Vietnam and the 1986 shows from Russia, because those were some of the most informative investigations ever took place. And it was horrifying to see how small towns in Russia had been wiped out in World War II. Some of the houses were still standing, but there wasn't nothing left there but real old women and men and some babies. If there had been any young men, they didn't come back home from World War II. They had a good life in the military, and they wanted to stay in the military, and because they ate well, they were housed well. They didn't have to work as hard as they did back home on the farms. And Ted Turner was able to show us all this stuff. And then the interview of that Russian general talked about how they knew a year before Kennedy was assassinated there was a conspiracy to murder John F. Kennedy. Absolutely horrifying what goes on in Washington, D.C. You know, they've tried 2 or 3 times to murder Trump. Thank God, knock on wood, they haven't accomplished it yet. But if they could, they would. They did successfully assassinate Charlie Kirk, who was a huge voice for common sense and reason and conservatism. And that's why they wanted him dead. And it's just absolutely amazing what these evil people in Washington, D.C. are capable of. And boy, they're evil. You know, look at how the media and all these Democrats lied about the cognitive decline of Joe Biden. It's absolutely amazing how they all fell in line and lied for him, covered up and lied. You know, when you look at the Democrat Party, you're looking at nothing but a bunch of damn liars. I mean, nothing but a bunch of damn liars. And they're becoming communist, and like that home girl wants to get rid of Thanksgiving and everything else that's meaningful in America. And then she says, oh no, I don't mean that anymore. Bullshit. These communists will lie to you every damn breath. These Democrats will lie to you every damn breath. They don't ever vote Democrat in this country again, ever. They're sick, lying, low class, real low class gutter snipes. That's all they are. But anyway, this is your hillbilly historian, bringing you up to date on Ted Turner. Regretfully, he's not with us anymore. He got mind raped by Jane Fonda and her Hollywood friends, and poor old Ted never was the same after that. But before Jane Fonda, he did a great job. He was unbelievable what he did for this country in the way of investigative journalism. And boy, I sure would like to find tapes of that 1985 Vietnam excursion and that 1986 Russian excursion. I wish they'd make those public where we could purchase them and get copies of them, because that was some really great investigative journalism back then. Ted Turner was a great American, great man. But anyway, this is your hillbilly historian catching you up on the wilds of Ted Turner and his amazing breakthroughs in communication and journalism and TV, modern TV. We wouldn't have any of this modern TV today without him. But anyway, you have a good day on this hot August afternoon.